Yeah, yeah, and so there was a concept you introduced me to that I had no idea. I'm sure you have lots and lots of those, but the concept of drift.
Music
Can you
drift.
music drift? Can you tell the audience what that means and how it fits in your work?
I think it fits in everybody's work.
Everybody's
Okay. Again, we're going back to strategy and behavior. Okay. Only this time we're going to use them together.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what happens when you're uh, the music director of a radio station? And God forbid you should say, I can pick the hit songs. Okay. But let's say that you don't do that and you're just trying to make your way and you're trying, okay. Well, there's going to be things that are involved. There's going to be your personal taste, right? In music, I like this song, I don't like that song. There's going to be the speed of your life. You don't think these people have sons and daughters and bosses and they got other jobs at radio stations, things that they're doing, okay? You don't think things can fall through the cracks? They can. When that occurs, any of those things can can make your music library drift off of center. Center being what listeners want as best as you can determine that. So at Rainmaker Pathway, here's what we do. We put science to what we're doing. So twice a year, we do what's called a spring and a fall music crunch, in which, if you know this accounting term, and I don't even know if this is an official accounting term, I just know that I've been infested with it. There's a thing called zero-based budgeting. Okay. Are you familiar with this term?
No.
Well, basically, you know how the government budgets, like they budget X gazillion dollars, and if they get to that part of their year where it's about to be over, they go, oh my God, if we don't spend this money, we won't get it next year. So they go out and spend it on all kinds of ridiculous stuff that doesn't matter. That's a theory, of course, but you can find examples of that in government everywhere. Well, zero-based budgeting is the opposite. Zero-based budgeting is when somebody comes at you and they go, okay, here's your budget. And then next year, you go through the budgeting process and you go, well, I'm going to get all these things again. And they go, no, you're not. You have to now come before a manager and you have to prove that you need all these things. And if you can't prove them, they don't go in your budget for the new year. That's zero-based budgeting. Okay. So we do this with songs. So that means literally we take every song off of a radio station and every individual song has to win its way back onto the radio station. How? By data. By data. Okay. That keeps a radio station straight up, dead center. We also do what's called a recurrent class review in the summer and in the winter. Okay. These are arguably the most powerful songs on a radio station, the most recent hits, but not the current hits, if you will. And all of these things together, these four functioning times in which we make songs win their way back onto the radio station, keeps you from drifting. This is a process that's known, by the way. I mean, if I was working for somebody else, if you and I decided we're going to build bar stools together, okay, we would have a process to keep us from drifting from what we're doing, from what our mission is, from what we want to accomplish with bar stools. So it doesn't matter what the product is. If there's humans involved, there's drift.
Yeah, because
And
there
music,
is change, right?
and music is emotional.
Yeah, yeah.
So that adds a whole new layer of drift. Happens to radio stations all the time.
Fascinating, fascinating, wonderful. So I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience who are listening, mm, probably they're millennials or maybe younger digital. They're like, I don't listen to radio. What is this radio thing?
Hey, right?
Right? So how would you answer? Is the pattern that radio is changing to this online thing, or is your definition of radio broader than over the air? How would you tell someone that radio is still relevant and will remain relevant? In fact, maybe more than that. How would you answer that?
Interesting, right? So here's here's what I believe. I believe that people in the radio business who are utilizing what I call creative destruction, okay, they know that radio has always changed. Radio's been around for a long time. It's faced a lot of foes. It's faced a lot of conversation about how radio's over. Do you know how many hundreds of millions of dollars radio generates right now? It's incredible. And look, why is that happening? It's happening because even though technology moves, okay, is radio going to have to change? Well, yeah. Radio has to change to keep up with what? We keep going back to this. The consumer. The consumer, Ray Charles, the people are never wrong, right?
Hmm.
We, the people, control what happens. You can corrupt that for a little bit, but not for long, because the people are going to choose what they want. And so radio has to change with that dynamic. And radio's done a good amount of that. I would like to see more in terms of apps that create really nice on-demand features, and on-demand features that go a lot deeper than regurgitating your morning show.
Hmm.
Okay, that have content that interests the host and interest the tribe. Okay, and that all that stuff's available to us. I mean, for years and years and years, I've always said this: once you have a radio station, you get anything else you want. At some point, I figured out you may not need a radio station for that, or I feel like I don't always need that. But radio has a dynamic platform in which we can reach into these other platforms, and we can bring other things to our party that keep us relevant indefinitely. And it's because we're wired. You've kind of said this a couple of times already on this broadcast. We're wired to want human connection.
Yeah.
This is not human connection. This is not human connection. Human connection is another person, and somebody who relates to you, and somebody who hears you and sees you and relates your story, tells your story.
So do you think that I guess let me ask you a basic question: is live an essential part of radio, or would you say that like podcasting is under the umbrella of radio, or is it a different medium? Define the radio for us. What is the essence of the radio that it hasn't changed from decade to decade to decade?
Companionship.
Hmm.
Companionship has not changed. It's a powerful element of what we do. Can you carry that into podcasting? Of course you can. Absolutely. No question. Is it the same thing? No. Is it a little different? Yes.
Hmm.
Is it a part of telling a brand story? Yes. I believe today, right now,
Hmm.
I believe the use of podcasting is to tell a brand story. That's what it is. It's narrow casting, if you will, to your tribe. Okay. It's on demand listening that you are interested in.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I'm brainstorming here because I'm learning
Okay.
as we go. Um, I was thinking that the live aspect of it was crucial, right? Um, but then when you said companionship, right? Companionship, I've had I've had times where the family is not here, they're on vacation, I'm by myself, and so on. So it's at night, and feeling a bit lonely. All right,
Yes. Right.
feeling a bit lonely, and I turn on a podcast, and it does it for me, right? It does it for me. And so but not all podcasts do it for me, and not all radio content does it for me. I think I'm just thinking now, right? I'm thinking that what does it for me is if it's like genuine, if it's like real, if it doesn't feel manufactured, if it doesn't,
Yes.
like I wouldn't tune into FM radio that plays the hits and they have this format and it's just there's no companionship there, or there's minimal. Um, but when I'm hearing somebody talk about something that they care about, or two people talking about something they care about, and they're talking, they care about it. It's not just a gig. They do care about what they're talking about. Then I feel that there is companionship there. What do you think?
Well, look, you hear people talk about this, and I'm sure this is true for everybody's business too. There's an art and a science to this.
Mm.
Okay. So when it comes to radio, audio, there's an art and a science to it.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. One, I used to be a firm believer that, man, it has to be live. It has to be live. All this voice tracking stuff, blah 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 blah. That's all gone.
Mm.
Here's what's true. What's true is, I think the first time I ever heard this, I was watching. I love old movies, So, go ahead and judge me now.
Same here. I love them.
And and I heard, I think it was Alfred Hitchcock, talk about the suspension of disbelief.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, there's a thing about suspending time too. And great radio performers can understand that. And fundamentally, whether it's recorded or whether it's live, they can create something that's also important for radio, which is surprise. Surprise me. Give me something that I wasn't expecting, but something that's within the expectation of my format, something I can be really interested in. Give me that. And I love that, right? Radio listeners love that. Podcast listeners love that. And let's talk about that for a minute. You said, there are all these podcasts. Man, there's like 2.5 million podcasts. Can they all be great? No. Think about this. One of the greatest artists of all time, arguably, Frank Sinatra. Man, Frank Sinatra was great, right? He was great. He did all this music. He defined several eras of music. He defines a certain part of music for hundreds of millions of people. Is that fair? Are all his songs great? No.
Hmm.
It's hard to do great things. It's hard to have a hit. My wife works in the music business. They literally create hit songs. That's what they do.
Hmm.
That's hard. Creating fame is hard. And if you don't realize that, you're going to get your heart burned a lot. It's going to hurt.
Yeah, yeah. Excellence is very, very, very tough and very rare. Also.
Well, excellence and excellence in connection to an audience.
Yeah.
Hard, not easy. If it was easy, everybody do it.
Yeah.
In podcasting, everybody is doing it, but they're not doing it.
So there was a golden era of radio, right?
Was there?
Well, at least in
What
my
was
mind.
that?
Again, in my mind,
Which golden era was that?
the golden area. When, before TV,
Sure.
when everything had to be brought to life through pure audio, right?
Right. Right.
And so I think it was like 30s, 40s, 50s, a little bit of
Maybe. I mean, look,
60s,
you've
right?
got FDR. Here's what I think you're talking about. FDR's fireside chats. Televisions aren't everywhere. Millennials probably warps their mind to think this, that not only could you not watch whatever you want to watch on this, but there wasn't TV,
Hmm.
or as my 5-year-old used to say, people were stupid back then. No, it's just the way the world works.
Hmm.
Let's move along, right? So there are several golden eras of radio, and you know what? It might surprise you. There might be a golden era on the way.
No, no. I think. Anyway, I'll touch on that in a couple of minutes. But I just want to talk about the so-called golden area,
Okay.
golden era, like when they had shows like Dragnet,
Yes.
and it was basically a radio before TV came through. I just want to give you an anecdote where the power of radio is sort of timeless. My son, who is now 19, I remember when he was 3, 4, 5, 6, right? He discovered by himself, I don't know how, he discovered I think it was Dragnet or one of these shows, right?
Dum, 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 dum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just loved it, and he would want to, go to sleep listening to it.
Wow.
So this is a guy who was born in 2001, right? So he's, what is it? Digital? He's digital, right? So
Yeah.
he didn't know the world without the smartphone, basically. Like by the time he was 6, 7, smartphone was everywhere. And he's one of those where it's an extension of his body, right?
Yes. That's
Right.
exactly right.
Yeah, and yet this thing that we call old time radio just hit him right there in terms of emotion. Like he loved it, and he continues to love it to this day, because it gives him something that nothing else gives him. I mean, he's one of those folks who also does the YouTube and all that stuff, and sees these TikToks and all, and still audio, pure audio, has a special place for him. So I think there's some magic there. And that's why I think.
You know why that could be? We tell stories.
Stories, exactly.
We're also hardwired. We want the
Yes,
story.
and it's
Tell me your
pure
story.
story, right? It's almost pure story. There's no
It has to
distraction. You
be.
you can be immersed completely, and as opposed to watching where I think I don't know. It's a hot media versus cold media. McLuhan categorization of radio just captures you completely, so you have to be totally
Yes.
immersed, right? So there is something special there, and I do think that we are seeing the beginning of a new golden era, to be honest with you, with all these hearables that are coming in, being able to listen to whatever you want, wherever you are, and all the talent that's emerging. A lot of money is being invested in that. So I do think that there is a new golden era. Go ahead, Lloyd.
But it's going to be the consumer that
Right.
rules the day.
Yeah.
So this takes me back to we have to get on the same page with an evolving consumer.
Yeah.
That's important. In the old days, you'd hire a consultant and they'd come in and they'd make you like 10% better. And that was great. That's not great anymore. Now, you better find somebody who's going to take you into the future and help you connect with the emerging, changing curve of your audience.
Yeah.
That's what we're about.
Well, the good news is that there's a lot of data that can help people who do want to listen, put their ear in the ground and listen to what's out there.
That's right.
And it's a matter of people like yourself, who know how to do it. Because I can tell you that it's not a commodity skill to do that, right? To wade through all that data, not to get the wrong conclusions, draw the wrong conclusions, or
Easy to do that, right?
it's easy to do that, right? I mean, data is dangerous. You can paint anything you want if you want to be deceptive. You can.
Yes.
What was
We
that
see
like?
that. We see
Statistics
that in
Live,
social
right?
media, right?
Yeah, it's very easy. I mean, you have to have a level of integrity to say I could easily argue it this way. I don't think that's true. If I dig a little bit more, right? And
It's
the
so
digging.
complex to
Yeah,
watch the images. And we do this with radio personalities all the time. We do this with local radio brands. We
yeah,
watch the images, the perception of what we're putting on the air, what we're putting in social media. We talk about content strategy. How are you being perceived? Very, very important. It's more important than it's ever been.
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you. Let's go back to social audio. So right now, I'm not seeing any brands, big brands, use social audio. Right? I'm not seeing. I don't know. Like Giant Food, which is a big brand that I encounter every single day. It's an important part of my life, or even Starbucks or whatever. I don't see them having presence in social audio.
Right.
Exactly the way I remember Twitter evolved. You're like, what is? I remember companies saying, "What is this
Right. It's new, right?
Twitter?" They called it, right?
Right.
Or what is this? The Facebook, right? Um, and it took time for it to sort of take shape in terms of what they can do with it. I guess it took for folks to adopt it so that now we see how people are using it. People being and their consumers and customers, right?
Right.
So how do having thought about innovation, having seen patterns of innovation coming in,
Right.
I think it feels like it's the same kind of pattern where it's being ignored. At some point, it's not going to be ignored anymore, and it's going to be something you know they'll adopt as part of their marketing mix, perhaps. How do you see a brand like, say, Estee Lauder or Giant Food embrace social audio
Oh,
in there?
I mean, first, it's not being ignored. People are watching, right?
Hmm.
People are listening. I mean, you see people on Clubhouse that are with these brands.
Mm.
So, business, what is it that they say? Success is the enemy of innovation. You know why they
Mm.
do that, right? Because
Mm.
all you need is a little bit of success. And then suddenly a row of cashiers surrounds you and you figure out how to keep doing what you've been doing because it made you successful.
Hmm. Yep.
Well, then the world veers off in another direction and suddenly you're having challenges. Okay.
Hmm.
So I do think that it depends on when audio as an idea for these brands becomes salient to them. You mentioned Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder can use something like a Clubhouse, but not just Clubhouse, okay? A podcast
Hmm.
to help tell their story. it's another part, as you say, of their marketing mix where they could tell their story, and they can tell it in an emotional way that involves real people, and something that you've talked about a couple of times here, but we haven't really used the word, right? Vulnerability, people's vulnerability. I'm telling you, these people, if we haven't learned anything from 14 months of lockdown, from all of the watching television to see when is this, what's the new variant, what's happening? If we haven't learned anything, we have to learn that people don't want to be contained. They don't want to be contained. They want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to be a part. People love social interaction, real social interaction. That's why these, what do they call it? Fake book, right? Not real, but good enough to where people are in. They want community. They want that. And I'm not kidding. You know, I like to think it's just Americans, but maybe it's everywhere. You can't keep us home.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We're going to go out and mingle with people. You just can't stop it.
Yeah. And so do you when you talk to these radio stations, since you've actually done social audio and you know it
Right.
by doing it and you're learning, and so you have a lot to teach folks, do you tell them about social audio as an instrument that could be useful to them?
No question. Zero question about that. Take, for instance, Clubhouse. In the old days, a music-based radio station, they would do a concert meet and greet. Well, how many people are you going to influence? All right. Well, let's do this. You're going to take 2 people back. So that's going to influence them. That's going to influence their friends because they're going to tell their friends. And even with social media, they're going to have photos. They're going to put it on Facebook. They're going to put it on Twitter. They're going to put it on TikTok. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on, right? But now your favorite radio station, morning show says, hey, we've set up this group on Clubhouse. We want you to be a part of it. We're going to be everywhere on whatever date the concert is, right? And so we want you to be a part of it, whether you're at the concert, whether you're not part of it. We're going to be in the parking lot. We're going to be in the arena itself. We're going to talk to people. We're going to put you on Clubhouse. You might go on the radio station too, you know, and for this person and this person, yes, we're going to take them backstage. We're going to take you too with Clubhouse. And you might be able to hear us interview the artist. It might be on the radio, might be on Clubhouse. Come be a part of the fun. Come get with me and let's do this. And there's a whole other version for talk radio, which we don't have time to get into, but there's lots of applications to use this. Think of yourself as being a radio personality, but freed. Now free. There are no limits. Build your tribe.
Yeah. I think the potential is enormous, to be honest with you.
It is.
I think it is enormous in terms of, you know, folks calling to the radio station and they get the busy signal, right? And they call. Like C-SPAN, for example, is one of my favorite. I don't watch TV much, but
But you're watching that C-SPAN.
C-SPAN. People call in and say, I've been calling for years.
Right.
And then so they get to talk for a couple of minutes, and then the guy says, thank you very much. Please keep watching, and remember, don't call for another month. You know, to give, that's what because people are calling all the time. So people want to talk.
Of course they do. They want to be heard.
They want to be heard, exactly. They want to be heard. They have something to say, and what they have to say is important.
Yes.
In their mind, and actually, I think it is important for others to hear what other folks like them, right, have to say. And so I think I'm thinking, which is very exciting, that radio is expanding beyond this one-way channel.
It is.
Right?
It is. And it's never truly been one way for really good, innovative people who've been on the radio.
Right. Yeah. So I think there are some, just to get back to the point of the golden era, I think there's a golden era that is taking shape slowly but surely. I think this pandemic is accelerating it perhaps, but I think it was happening regardless.
And you know what? Yeah. On the 21st of this month, you talked about data. We're going to present a thing with Futuri It's a huge research project that they've done since the pandemic, since the lockdown, on consumers and what they want and so if you want to see what data's like, that's kind of the deal. And one other thing I wanted to mention, we're not just on Clubhouse, we have 2 podcasts. And they are the Clubhouse events because we want people to be able to get them on demand and see what they're like and share them with other people. So we have the Encouragers Innovation in Audio podcast and the Encouragers the Radio Rally podcast. They're on iTunes and wherever you get your podcast.
We'll have a landing page that has all this information there, so you can find them. But quickly, what's the website where people can go to find you?
Our website is rainmakerpathway.com, and we say that Rainmaker Pathway is pathway to money for our clients. Rainmakerpathway.com, and we have a whole blog section there that has tons of free resources if you're into connecting with people, compassion, vulnerability, engaging in audio, and really connecting with audience. That's the business that we're in. We are humble servants of our clients, and we're interested in your success.
Well, Loyd Ford, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a fun conversation. I've learned a lot, as always.
I've learned a lot from you too, by the way. Let's don't let this be a thing where you're saying you learned from me. I learned a lot from you.
Well, I appreciate that, but thank you so much for your generosity. We'll keep talking, and I think exciting times are ahead.
I like it.
All of us.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.